Anthony Christie, I want to welcome you to the Library of the History of Human Imagination in this ongoing series at TED-Med. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm looking forward to chatting.
Jay, I feel the same way. It's awesome to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. And might I say, what an impressive room to have a conversation in.
Well, I often tell people that, when you're surrounded by the history of mankind's imagination, it often makes you feel a little smaller in one level and makes you feel a little bigger in another. You sort of want to step up your game a little. Looking at these walls and these things, you go, oh my God, I haven't even put a book on the shelf yet myself. It sort of reminds us all of just how extraordinary human history really is and how important imagination is. I think your company in many ways, Level 3, is an act of imagination, all right? Because who would have thought, burying undersea, light fibers under the oceans would be the source of a business?
Absolutely right. And on the scale that we're currently operating that network today, as you mentioned, subsea, undersea cable, connecting the many, many cities around the globe, but also terrestrially as well, connecting all of the points of presence that our clients think are important.
The invention of glass, modern glass, probably dates back, I think, maybe to the 1500s or so, where it was reserved for royalty. It was so expensive and so difficult to make. And now, a glass fiber as thick as a pencil can carry what? Almost all the world's conversations, for sure.
Millions of simultaneous transactions, millions of simultaneous phone calls around the planet, countless numbers of books in this room in a second.
And I think so much of the history of science and technology has been the emergence of unexpected and almost extraordinary properties of things that when it first starts we take for granted as, okay, this is a great way to make windows. And we see it over and over again in history. When you look today and you look around at the kinds of things that people might not yet expect are going to be extraordinary in their future application. Glass might be one. Is there other things you look at and say, you know what, nobody's really talking about this yet, but you watch 50 years, 30 years, we'll be talking about this.
It's interesting, particularly in the context of healthcare.
Right.
How we take for granted every day the use of technologies for banking, for bill payment, for social applications, and yet when it comes to our own care, our own healthcare records, in many respects, they're codified in manila envelopes on shelves, similar to the room that we're sitting in today.
Yeah, very comfortable in the 17th century.
Exactly,
right.
Exactly, Jay. So when you say, what are some of the things perhaps that folks haven't contemplated yet? How about a time in the not too distant future where it's equally easy to take control of your healthcare destiny via secure online access as it is to look up a recipe on the internet?
Why is health and medicine so averse? Why isn't leading information? Financial services certainly adopted it almost instantly, as fast as it could. Why medicine no?
There's a couple of reasons. To take a few, information technology up until recently was viewed as a nasty expense in cash-strapped hospitals. In the industries that you just referenced, financial services or manufacturing or other professional services, it's actually viewed as productivity, something to leverage, a profit center, as it were. So that's one reason. It's just kind of anchored.
Looked like it wasn't making people healthier or safer, so let's spend the money on more important things.
It was these folks over here, and they were IT geeks, and let them do what they need to do. And,
okay, so that would be one reason.
So I think another reason has to do with some research that we've recently done. We commissioned an independent study. The healthcare industry and the vertical is extremely important at Level 3. We serve some 1,300 healthcare institutions in the ecosystem in the United States alone. And it spans the gamut from hospitals to care providers to payers to research institutions and things of that nature. We talked to the chief information officers of over 100 of these companies. And the name of the survey was The Future of Healthcare IT, Information Technology. And we asked them, what's top of mind for you? And the number one issue that came up was network security. So our belief and some of the feedback that we have received really reinforces this belief, is that there's a concern about security as it relates to digitizing and codifying healthcare information. Which is ironic, Jay, because in fact, if you think about those manila envelopes that are holding our healthcare information today in many cases, the extent of the security is the closet door that they're locked in.
So we're talking transition here and saying all transitions are not fun. We're in a transitional period. Have we done a good job in the industry sector of this, telling people about the benefits they're going to get, or have we really been so excited about the efficiencies we're going to get that we haven't done a particularly good job at telling people why this is going to help them?
Yeah, so it is twofold. I believe that when we put statistics on the table, and you already hit one earlier, Jay, where you said, wow, what a huge cost to society healthcare is today, of 17% of GDP today, and going north to 20% in the next 5 to 10 years. If we contrast that with, for example, what we see to the north of our borders, use Canada as an example, those percentages are remarkably less. Mm-hmm. And to break that down and to make it meaningful, there's estimates that say almost $100,000 per physician per year in each office is spent on administrative care. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's 4 times the amount of our neighbors to the north. Take it down to another level, the softer costs, almost 20 hours a week per physician by nurses aides, and administrative assistants in the office are applied towards administrative work, mostly on the payer side, mostly on the payer management side. That's 10 times the amount of time for comparable work spent by, our neighbors to the north. Now, there's a lot of different dynamics, and would it apply exactly, and should we expect the same efficiencies? There's something there. There's something there as we digitize and codify healthcare records.
So one of the big benefits here is there will be more time for patients if we spend less time doing paperwork.
That's precisely right.
Even though the patient sees initially, it seems like you're spending more time in front of the computer when you're with me than you did before.
This is not about dollars and cents. This is about a higher quality patient experience. That's ultimately what the endpoint is here.
People don't like to be told that top scientists have determined this is better for you. Mm-hmm. They just want to make their own choices. So what we have to do as marketers, we have to figure out how to make consumers choose digital records, demand digital records, just like they demand ABS brakes now, mm-hmm. just like they demand phones that have substance. For example, if you were an e-commerce site and there was no password when you asked for your credit card number, I wouldn't shop at that mm-hmm. site. I can understand why these things help me. I can understand this idea, look, we're having electronic records because if you ever need a specialist, we can get one right away. Mm-hmm. We're having electronic health records because your monthly email update that looks at your health, comparing it to all other people like you, is going to be personalized for you. And that's what we're doing. Well, suddenly, you're talking to me now. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't need government mandates anymore. Right? Customer mandates, better than government mandates. Faster, too. Been my experience.
So this is actually a good news story because in many respects, the technology is already there.
Yeah.
And at times, marketing might overreach. In this case, it's the opposite.
Yeah, marketing is underreached.
Marketing is underreached.
Yeah.
We need to help push
basically say, bring in the marketers here. Mm-hmm. We're having a problem where we are all losing because various parts of the chain of users do not see benefits that are real and tangible and no kidding around good. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. But they're not being explained in a language that people can understand, relate to, and embrace. That's what marketers do. So I think there's a giant opportunity for us marketers here.
I concur.
Anthony, I want to thank you very much for joining us here at TED Med in the Library of the History of Human Imagination. It was a pleasure having you today.
It's a pleasure being here and great meeting you, Jay.